Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our webinar on the EUI PhD scholarships. This is a webinar hosted by jobs.ac.uk, and we will, during the hour, have the possibility to provide you with information on the PhD at the EUI. And I'm in the company of a virtual company of professors, researchers, and administrative staff, so that we can reply to all your questions you may have during this hour. So first and foremost, just by introduction, I would like to indicate that the EUI, the European University Institute, is an international organization who is specializing in teaching and research but at a doctoral and a postdoctoral level. So we are having this webinar now because our call for applications for PhD for the PhD program is open now until the end of January. And in order to provide you with information, if you may be interested in pursuing a PhD, and if you would be interested to pursue this PhD at the EUI, it may be very helpful for you to listen to our comments and to ask questions. So I would like to introduce the panel members. And then I will say something about the way in which you can interact with us. So we have two researchers with us today, two professors, myself as the director of the academic service and a staff member of the academic service who is the admission officer. So I would like to turn to the professors first. Professor Joanne Scott, please, if you can introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Professor of European Law in the Law Department at the EUI, where I specialise in environmental law and climate change law, among other things.
Professor Regina Grafe, please, can you introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Regina Grafe. I'm the head of the History Department. I am a professor of early modern history, and I arrived at the EUI 5 years ago. I worked previously in the US, in the UK, in Spain, Latin America, and I'm originally German.
So this is already a flavor of the international community of scholars that we have at the EUI. Now I turn to Lorenzo, colleague of mine in the academic service.
Hello, my name is Lorenzo Ghezzi. I'm the missions officer of the EUI, and I'm in charge of the PhD and LLM recruitment procedure, as well as the admissions to the program.
Now, two researchers who would like to introduce themselves. Lucas, please.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Lucas. I'm a second-year researcher in the economics department and also one of the department's student representatives.
Daria.
Hello, my name is Daria Glukhova. I'm a third-year researcher in the SPS department, and I come from Russia.
So now you have met the panelists who can answer questions according to your, who will answer questions. Now I read at my paper that if you're watching live today, you can ask questions by posing them in the chat box, which you can see on the side of your screen normally. I can see that, so I hope you can as well. And you will be able to ask a question if you are signed into YouTube. If you would not be signed into YouTube, then you can tweet us at jobs.ac.uk, but you have to remember to use the hashtag JobsQ. So now I think we are all set to start our questions and answers session. And the first question that we received is how the EUI PhD programs are supervised. And I think the best persons to answer this question are the professors. So Joanne, can I ask you please to give some indication on the supervision which is done at the EUI?
Okay, Virla. So I think supervision arrangements are different between different departments. So Regina will have some different information to give you. But in the law department, when a student arrives, the student is allocated a provisional supervisor based on the topic that the student will be, the researcher will be studying. Over the course of the first weeks, the researcher can, and in fact is encouraged to talk to other professors in the department in order to make the best possible fit between the researcher and the professors. And after a period of several weeks, choice will be made about the choice of supervisor. The researcher in the law department will only have one supervisor, but they will be encouraged to speak regularly to other members of the department as well in order to gain the insights that they can offer. I think I'll leave it there, and then if people have more precise questions, I can come back.
Okay, Regina, can you please say something for the history departments?
Yes, of course. So, as you have already seen, we have law, we have sociology and poli-sci, and then we have economics and history. And in history, like in law, you come in with a provisional supervisor and you see if that relationship works for you. I think what is important to understand is that you come with your own topic. So PhD students at the EU normally are not meant to support a professor's ongoing research, but rather we professors are meant to are here for the sole purpose of advising PhD students in your chosen field of research. So you set the research agenda and we are here to support you in that. So once you've been matched with a supervisor, you would decide which courses to take in terms of methods, in terms of thematic fields, in terms of research skills, but also maybe languages that you might have to sort of work on for your research. You get feedback in seminars from other professors, but EUI is very small, so you will see your individual supervisor, and in history you have 2 supervisors, very regularly. And then, of course, the kinds of themes you will talk about change over time, from developing your research to actually doing your research to actually finding a job after you've done your research.
Thank you very much. There are a number of questions coming in my chat box, so I will try to follow them. But maybe I do not know whether Lucas or Daria would like to come in on their own experience on how they have been supervised or what they think is their supervision feedback. One of them would like to come in. Lucas?
Maybe I can give a quickly add to this from the economics perspective. So in economics, in the first year, you do a structured course program, as it's quite common in PhD programs in economics. So actually, you have a provisional supervisor who is somehow supposed to guide you a bit through this program during the first year. And then actually only in the beginning of the second year, you have to make your final choice for who's going to be your supervisor during your PhD. And this gives you ample opportunity to talk to our professors and also make sure that you get the best fit that you can possibly have.
Mm-hmm. Daria, would you like to say something?
Yes, I can also say that I think for the SPS department, it's also possible, I mean, you get the provisional supervisor, of course, and you see how the relationship develops, but if you come with your own topic, you can also then change your topic maybe during the year. So it's not that you come and then you're dead set with one particular topic, and if your interests change or if it somehow your research develops into a different direction, you can always talk with your supervisor or with other professors at the university and see how it can go.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. I will go to the second question now, which is about the PhD structured program. And here, just before I give the floor to various people, I would like to indicate that indeed the difference between our PhD program and the PhD program or the PhD that you can have in other universities is exactly that it's a program. And the program means that there is also a large training component which is included in the PhD program, which is 4 years. And that's the main difference between the PhD that you can do in another university, another country, or that you do it at the EUI, because it's covering a number of issues which maybe you will not get in other universities. be that the fact what already was alluded by the professors and the researchers, that you can of course engage with the community that you are part of, that is with other researchers, with other professors who may have an interest in your topic, who may advise you on your topic, which is not so common in other universities, because it is a large university. We are quite small and flexible, so there is a lot of discussion and dialogues ongoing between the various researchers, postdoctoral fellows, professors, and staff. So this is already something which is quite different. And also, you will, by doing so, of course, be confronted with other scholars with other backgrounds, other cultures, other ideas, who can bring something to your project, and maybe gain kind of a wider view on your topic by talking to people from other disciplines. But also, what we are trying to do is to provide also possibilities to develop your skills, your professional skills, during your PhD at the EUI. So we provide a number of seminars and courses on issues in order to provide you with the necessary skills before you go on the job market. And that may be provision on academic writing, presentation skills, how to prepare for a grant application, publication things, data, and so forth. So it is much more than writing a PhD. It's being part of a program, and of course, depending on your interest and on your personality, something that you can gain a lot from by speaking to other people and by engaging with other departments and other disciplines. Now, the last thing, and then I give the floor to the professors, is that it is structured and free at the same time. So the structure of the PhD program, which is 4 years, you come from year 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, gives you a certain certainty, a certain feeling of a good feeling, because you know what is expected and you know what you're supposed to do. But on the other hand, you have the freedom to talk and to navigate in that research community of scholars and try to get the most of it. So this combination is really something which I wanted to clarify before giving the floor, as I said before, to Professor Scott and Professor Grafe, so that they can come in on the PhD program, because of course they are much more involved in it than I do. Joanne?
So you can hear me, yeah? That was very helpful, Veerle, thank you. And I'll just add a couple of things to it. One is, because the program is structured, you are faced with regular milestones. So we keep quite careful track of your progress from the very beginning of your time at the EUI. Now, there will be variation between departments, but for example, in the law department, we would invite you to participate in a research question workshop in the December of your first year, where you will receive feedback on your developing research question from professors, including professors who are not your supervisor, and also from fellow researchers. Likewise, at the end of your first year, or towards the end of your first year, you will be required to submit a reasonably substantial May paper, which will allow us to evaluate your progress. So I know from my own researchers that what Veerle said is correct. There is enough flexibility in the program, but the researchers, in my experience, very much appreciate the fact that they receive quite a lot of guidance and support in the first year. They're not just abandoned to their own research. We also, as Veerle said, offer a lot of classes, and I could talk more about those, but I think people probably don't want the details for now. It's sufficient simply to say that the classes can cover different areas of law, in the case of the law department, but also different methodological approaches. There's a lot of emphasis placed upon developing your skills in methodology, and also different theoretical approaches to the study of the subject that you're involved in. So yes, if people have specific questions, I'm happy to say more. We can see some of the questions flashing up on the screen, and this is just really to reiterate what Regina said earlier in response to some of those questions. Yes, you choose your own research topic.
Yep.
You get help in refining and developing that topic when you arrive at the EUI, but you choose your own research topic in the first instance, which is a great thing, because you need to be passionate about your topic in order to carry out a PhD.
Thank you, Joanne. So I would like to ask Regina for her feedback, please.
Yes, hello. So maybe as a historian, I can just add a few things. So the history department at the EUI actually specializes somewhat, but specializes very broadly in comparative, transnational, and global history from 1450 to yesterday. So that is what we do, and you will find a cohort of up to 30 people coming in with you who work on the same thing. So you will both have individual and collective activities, as I think in all of the programs here. There are the taught courses in history too for the first 2 years. And once a year, the two supervisors and the student, the PhD student, get together and take stock of where you are, where you have to go next, and what you need in order to bring a PhD to a successful end. Now, in history, it's a bit special because language matters much more in history than in some of the other subjects. So it is the one place where we have a liberal policy on which language you write your PhD in. So if you go to the webpage of the history department, you will see that our graduates have written mostly in English, but some have done their PhDs in French, in Spanish, in German, or in Italian, because sometimes that is actually the right choice for the research we want to do. We also, obviously, as historians, spend more time in the archive than some of our colleagues elsewhere. So we have the possibility to support PhD students twice a year to go on research missions. And like Joanne pointed out, we keep you going from the start. So you will start writing right in year 1. You have the first paper to hand in before Christmas. And you will go on every year to write bits and pieces. So you will, rather than doing all the research and then writing up, you will be writing and researching at the same time. So maybe that's sort of a little bit of the special flavor of the history program to add.
Yeah, thank you very much. I would just like to, before we go to the next question, answer some questions which came on the screen. And one of the things is that one question was if you can do a PhD part-time. The answer is very simple: no, you cannot. It's a full-time program, so you have to be full-time available and in residence. Apart from what both professors said about the research topic that can be freely chosen is absolutely right. And also one of the questions I would like to answer, that you can look at the website of the EUI, especially if you go to the page on the PhD, where all the disciplines and the departments are represented. You can go to the website of your department, and you can look at the research areas currently being researched. Because one of the things that I would recommend is to look at the areas which are currently being done at in the various departments, so that of course also the fact that the professors have to supervise you is very important. So there has to be a match somewhere, not necessarily very specific, but you need to have a professor who can supervise your topic. That's absolutely important. Having said that, I would also like to mention that during the application, researchers are expected to provide a research project. But what we see is very often that the research project that originally was proposed can also be more focused, can slightly change during the first year, and also during the interview. This is sometimes already the case, so that people who really propose their research proposal when they apply to the PhD can come up with a different research proposal when they are admitted and when they have had a chance to talk to their supervisor. So this is all very flexible. And I wanted to mention that not in order not to forget this. So now I would like to go to the third question that I had, which is about the scholarship. So now we know a bit what the structured program is of the EUI. We know how supervision is done in general. Now we can go to the, if I would be interested, what are the criteria to be considered for admission? So I will turn to my colleague Lorenzo Gezzi, who is the admission officer and who can tell you something about the main criteria.
Yes, exactly. Thank you, Ver. This is actually one of the most recurring questions that I have, and I would like to take this opportunity to sum up in a very, very short way our scholarships opportunities are financed and how the system is actually working. So we do have every year approximately 150 scholarships available. The scholarships are fully funded, meaning that they both provide a monthly grant together with other allowances, and they also cover the annual tuition fees for the program. So the scholarships are financed by the grant awarding authority. It is quite important that you familiarize with this term because it's really recurrent in the website, but also on the application form itself. The grant awarding authorities are generally the EUI contracting states, the 23 EUI contracting states, plus Norway and Switzerland, which are associate member states, and they award scholarships in the framework of an association agreement. We also have special programmes. All the details, of course, are indicated online, such as the one from the Italian Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, which is awarding grants to a selection of non-EU countries, and the EUI itself as small grants programs reserved to candidates who are coming from non-EU countries and are not eligible for any other program. So the first piece of information that you should indeed have before consulting the applications guide that we have online is the information related to the grants. All the details are available online, but just let me give you a piece of advice, because as you will be able to see, the eligibility criteria for the grants are set not by the EUI, but by directly the grants awarding authorities, so the member states. And the criteria are different. So some of them may be related to your nationality, some others to the residence, some others to the degree and its time of award. So it's really important that you check the information on the website, not only for the country of your nationality, but also for a country where you have studied or the country where you are currently residing. This is really important because you may be actually eligible for more than one program, and the application portal will give you the possibility of selecting up to 3 grant awarding authorities. Of course, your eligibility will be then checked during the recruitment process, but please check the information online. They are very detailed and quite transparent, I have to say, but you can, of course, contact the admissions office for any specific questions you may have. We will be more than happy to guide you through the process. Last piece of information that I want to give you is that the applications to the EUI, in the greatest majority of cases, is automatically an application for the grant. So you just have to apply to the EUI, select the relevant grant awarding authority, and if you are selected, you will automatically receive the scholarship. This is not valid for a number of countries. They are indicated online, such as Spain, Portugal, and the UK, because those grant awarding authorities, they require a separate application procedure. It's something quite simple, to be honest, that you just have to file correctly, and we can provide information and advice on the separate application procedure.
Okay, thank you, Lorenzo. So don't be afraid about the application process. It is Much simpler than you may think. First of all, because as Lorenzo indicated, all the information is online available. Lorenzo will be there, I'm not saying 24 hours a day, but nearly, to answer your questions. The main thing that I would like just to repeat is that nobody is accepted to the EUI without a grant. And the grants, as Lorenzo said, come from the member states of the European Union. Most of them. There are also some other issues that I would like to indicate, because there was a question also related to, if you're not from the European Union, what do you do? Of course, I'm just repeating that Italy gives grants to a number of countries who can apply for a grant. And then, of course, you can also be admitted or considered for admission with an external grant if you can prove that this grant can be provided for the duration of 4 years. So nobody at the EUI is admitted without a grant. So the admission is on the basis of merit, and the merit is decided and considered by the professors. So on academic grounds and on your research proposal. So there is one part which is first the eligibility criteria from the what Lorenzo mentioned, and if you pass that, then you will be considered based on the academic grounds. So I will go to the next question then, but there were first two questions which relate, in fact, to the eligibility criteria. And one is there an age limit? There is, I think, one country which still has an age limit. If I'm not mistaken, it is Spain.
Yes, indeed, there are a few countries, actually, a couple of them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which is not fine. So we try to communicate to them that there cannot be a discrimination on the basis of age. But normally there should not be any discrimination on the basis of age. There was another question on residence. Yes, you need to be resident. Of course, there is some flexibility, of course, in the program. There are some missions foreseen. There is some teaching placements foreseen. There are research missions foreseen. In the 4th year, there is no residence requirement anymore. But most of the researchers who are here are, of course, very keen to be here, because this is the specificity of the program, is to engage with the people and the scholars which are in Florence at campus, and which is exactly the beneficial issue of the program. The start of the program is the registration is at the end of August, and the first 2 weeks of September are induction. So you will be acquainted with the departments, with your supervisors, with social activities, and also with one another. So the first 2 weeks are really an induction to the program and to the various services. And there is another question on Brexit, but I will come to that later. So those are the questions that I could see coming up on my screen, and we were fitting into the to the request with scholarships. And now there is again a question which will be replied by Lorenzo, because this is about the application process and the selection process. So Lorenzo, if you could give some information on the timeline here. We know that the application is open now until the end of January. The application is an online application, which is quite straightforward, but Lorenzo will give you some more details.
Yes, correct. The applications portal has been open since the 1st of November, and it will remain open until the 31st of January 2019 at midnight. We will start screening the applications early after the deadline, but this doesn't mean that you cannot already register your application now. Actually, this is something that I will personally strongly encourage you to do, since the application portal will allow you not only to register your application, but also to save it, to edit, and to make changes until the deadline. We strongly recommend candidates to already open an application, because to do that, you just require to select your grant program. So you can, as discussed earlier, already consult the information regarding the grants online. and nominate the academic referees who are supposed to provide a reference letter for you. So this is only, of course, something that an academic referee can do, and you want to give your professor, lecturer, and so on and so forth enough time to submit a reference letter on your behalf. This is something that they will do automatically through an automated system, but of course, it's important that you don't register your application so close to the deadline, because you need to ensure that your referees are submitting the reference letter on time by the application's deadline. Once again, I don't want to provide details regarding the required documents and the application process itself, because everything is published on the website. And again, we are available and really happy to guide you through the process. What I would like to mention is briefly the selection process and schedule. This is already available online as well. So we have mentioned the applications deadline, which is the 31st of January. Then we will take approximately 1 month to screen the application. The EUI will do the academic screening, while the national grant awarding authorities will check your eligibility for the grant. And by mid-March, pre-selected candidates will be invited for an interview at the EUI. So the interviews will take place from the 1st of April to the 4th of April. In each invitation, I will provide you with a precise time slot for your interview, the date, the time, the building, and of course, information regarding the travel reimbursement that we provide, so to make sure that all candidates are, where possible, able to attend the interview in person. Then the process is quite really fast in terms of responses that you will get, because approximately after 10 days, up to 10 days after your interview, you will receive a written communication regarding the results. So if you are going to be selected and admitted to the EUI, this will mean that automatically you will receive an offer with a grant, with a fully funded scholarship, and the academic year will start on the 1st of September every year. So online you can also find the selection criteria, which are more or less the same for all the departments, with the exception of the Department of Economics, because there you also have to submit a GRE score. And last information that I would like to point out, since we are somehow different from other universities around the world, is that we have a policy for you not to contact potential supervisors. We want to make sure that the selection process is transparent and fair to all candidates. So we don't want candidates to contact potential supervisor, to fine-tune their research proposal. We do that because all the relevant information that you should have in order to produce a relevant research proposal are indicated online. So you can find all the research teams, the curriculum, all the publications, the seminars, everything about all professors is publicly available online, and you should refer to these pages to provide a research proposal which can be supervised at the EUI.
Okay, thank you. I've seen other things coming up here, so I would like to I would like to answer some of the questions, and then I will go to the professors for some questions, specific questions. So the first one is that yes, the interview is live, is face to face. So you will be invited to the EUI, and you will have a panel and of professors asking you questions about your research topic. So that's the first answer to a question which came in. The reference, yes, the reference has to be an academic reference, because the purpose of the references is to have some feedback on people who know the academic qualities of your of yourselves. And the last thing is about EU and non-EU applicants. So if you have a double nationality, we will definitely encourage you to apply for the European Union national, because depending on, of course, what other nationalities you have, but if you would be eligible for any other grant, for example, for a grant from the European Union, then you have to apply for that, because you would not be eligible for the grant given by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, because that's only for people who are not eligible for any other grants. So having said that, I would like to turn to Joanne and to Regina, because there were two questions which I think should be answered by them. The first one is, what are the professors looking at when they look at the application? Is it mainly the research, or is it mainly, what is it that you are really, that is really deciding you to put a person on a shortlist? And the second question is about changing the topic of your research. So I will first turn to Regina now with PhD applications and also the change of the topics, please.
Yes, thank you very much. Now, what we look at is first and foremost the project that you will present, the preparation that you have to actually do that project, and the feasibility and the possibility that this research can be carried out. Now, having said that, of course, we are all very aware that these projects are always at a very early stage. So very few projects that people apply with are really realized in the exact shape and form that they have been proposed. What we want to see in your application is the potential to do an interesting research project, and of course also your academic record to see that you have a good preparation to do that proposal. And I think that already sort of answers the second question a bit. Of course, PhD projects change. They do all the time. Some change a little bit, many change quite a bit, and a few change altogether. And that's fine too, and that happens, and I don't think that is a problem.
Thank you very much. Joanne, can I ask you for your feedback, please?
Sure, I don't think I have very much to add to what Regina has said. I think academic record is important because that helps us evaluate potential, and that's especially important in light of the fact that, of course, the research proposals are going to be, as Regina said, at a very early stage. But although they're at an early stage, you can help yourself, I think, a lot by trying to write a very clear research proposal. Sometimes research proposals are very dense, very muddled, very hard to read. It's better to write a more straightforward and clear proposal and recognize that if you're admitted to the EUI, there will be time to develop that proposal further. So probably ask somebody to read your proposal for you to get feedback about the clarity of your writing. We also expect to see that people are serious, that they've taken the time to do some reading in the subject matter in which they're interested in. Now, your time will be limited. You're probably finishing another degree, or you're working in a profession and you have a busy life. So we know that time is limited in preparing the proposal. But it is, I think, essential to find some time to familiarize yourself sufficiently with some of the academic literature in the area so that we can see that you've really been willing to make an effort in putting your proposal together. It's difficult for people who have been out of education for some years because they don't have the advantage that they can build, for example, on an MA dissertation that they're currently preparing. And we recognize that when we're looking at the applications, of course. And for people who have been out of education for a long time, who are writing in with questions saying, no, I haven't studied for 11 years, how can I ask my professors? I still write references for people who I taught 20 years ago. So don't be afraid to go back to your professors. They may not be able to write a very detailed reference, but they'll be able to look at your record and they'll be able to tell us something about your accomplishments while you were at university. People change their research topics when they come, sometimes a little, sometimes a lot. And all of these things are done in consultation with your supervisor and other professors at the EUI. One of the very positive things about the EUI is you have a great deal of support from professors when you're here. And so it's a less lonely and maybe a less frightening experience than doing a PhD in some other places can be.
Thank you very much. I have two questions which I would like to answer now before we go to the next round. And this is a question related to the GRE. So the GRE is compulsory for economics only. So it's not compulsory for history, law, and political and social sciences. And secondly, the elephant in the room, Brexit. So Brexit, I go back to the beginning of our webinar where we said that the EUI is an international organization, and the members of the member states who are providing grants for the PhD applicants, candidates, are members from the European Union. Of course, you have to be a member of the European Union to join the EUI convention. So the UK has joined the European Union, the European University Institute, and is providing grants. So the European University Institute is not a European Union institution. It's not a European institution. So even if Brexit or if the UK would leave the European Union, it is still a EUI member. So the grants for next year have been confirmed. So and if at a later stage something terrible would happen, what we absolutely hope will never happen for the EUI, they're still committed, of course, to pay for the PhDs who have been admitted and when they were a member. So everything for us, in other words, remains the same. So since we were talking about interviews and about research and so on, I would like to ask if the researchers maybe can provide some information on how did they perceive their interview. So can I ask Lucas?
Sure. Thank you, Relle. I mean, in the end, what you should see, especially this interview, I mean, also as an opportunity to get to know the EUI. And sure, on the one hand, and this is what the professors expect, you need to show that you have that you're able to develop some research ideas and that you're a suited candidate for this PhD program. But it also gives you the opportunity to come here, to come to Florence, and the EUI is actually paying for your flights and for your accommodation. You can take a look around campus. You can meet people. You can meet fellow students. In the economics department, what happens every year is that we also, so students take the candidates that come here for the interview for a dinner afterwards, so that you can also ask questions in a very informal setting to people who are actually in the program. And to me, this was the moment when I decided actually to come here, to just see the surroundings and see this amazing place, to meet the community and be with the people. And yeah, again, this is why I would highly encourage you, if you're invited for an interview, to actually make it a face-to-face interview and not try to do it over Skype, even if time is limited, because you get some information, you get some impressions that you can't get over Skype, and that are very valuable to decide whether you want to come here.
Thank you. Daria, can I also ask you what is your feedback that you can share on the interview?
Yes, of course. I couldn't agree more with Lucas. I think it's a wonderful opportunity that you can actually come and see the UI and talk face to face with the professors, with basically with the interview committee, and in addition, of course, to the students, because this is what you can get in the informal setting a lot more, to get to know a lot more about the institute. And I think when I came for the interview, of course, you're very nervous, but being among the other PhD researchers, seeing how life is like, really hearing how positive their attitude is towards the place encourages you a lot. And I think I fell in love with the place immediately. But then, of course, you have to face the fear, the increased stress of whether you're taken or not. But that's, I think, in any interview setting. But again, I think it's one of the very rare opportunities that the UI provides, because other universities don't usually have that.
Thank you very much. I just want to look at my chat box here, and I see that there is a question on do you recommend students who have just finished their master to apply for the PhD program, or should they wait and contribute to recent publications? Well, this of course depends on your own career prospects, if you have already any after doing your masters. But most of our researchers apply to the EUI and decide to pursue a PhD when they are about to finish their master program. I think this is, for the majority of the cases, this is the case, of the applicants the case. But of course, we have also people who have been doing their master, then they work a couple of years, and then maybe with the experience they have gained in their work life, they still decide to apply for a PhD, because it can bring them other insights, because they feel that they would need to have time to study in order to become better on the job market. So it's really a very personal thing. So there is no recommendation at all that I think we can give you, but maybe the professors have another view on that, and I will give them the floor immediately. And then there is another question, if the audience can contact the panelists by email. Yes, of course. But if you have a question which is really specifically to the procedure, then I would ask you to contact the admission officer, and then we can forward the questions, if they're more academic, to our professors. So I do not know whether Regina or Joanne would like to come in on the what would they recommend to apply for a PhD immediately after the master or later on. If you have any views on that, please come in now. Joanne? Joanne, we can't hear you. Yeah.
Yeah. I think many of the researchers in law apply when they're finishing their masters, their LLMs, very often in the case of law applications. We do also have researchers who have been working as research assistants or as teaching fellows in a university. So there's a huge amount of variation. But nobody listening should think that it's too early to apply when you're completing your masters. That's an absolutely fine time to be applying.
Mm-hmm. Regina, do you want to come in?
Well, yes, I would entirely agree with that. I think the individual path that people take towards this kind of training, and it's absolutely, I think, the great majority of people do apply directly out of the masters, but it is also absolutely okay to decide a few years later that one actually wants to go back. And so I think both paths are we see, and there is no preference given to one over the other.
The last question I see here before we go to life at the EUI is, if you have done already another PhD prior to this one in a different field, would you be excluded? No, you would not be excluded. We had some cases of people who did 2 PhDs. If you're really very gifted to do research for 4 years, then why not? The only caveat can be that maybe your member state will not be, if you have already had your scholarship paid for by your member state, maybe they will think that this is fine to do it once, to fund it once. So this is the only caveat. But for the rest, of course, you can do 2 and 3 and 4 PhDs if you are interested to do that. But you have to find the funding, of course, and this may be a blocking instance. So fine. So we know a lot about now the program. We have heard about the supervision, about the structure of the program, about a number of issues, practical issues on the research topics and so forth. So now I would like to turn to the researchers, because I think that they can provide some information on how is life at the EUI. I mean, life as a PhD researcher, but also life as a human being, let's say. So Daria.
Yes, thank you. I think one of the most important things to know about the UI is that it's basically specialized on doctoral and postdoctoral research, and therefore it's a very different environment from big universities where there are a lot of bachelor's and master's students. But it's very good from the point of how you communicate with the professors, because then professors have more time for you, and the professor-student ratio, I suppose, is very good. I don't know the numbers, but maybe someone could fit them in. But I think the idea is that each professor gets several supervisees each year, and then you really are exposed to them in quite. So, I mean, you meet them, you talk to them much more often than I think you would in a big university where the professor has to also address the teaching for bachelor's and master's students. And in my personal experience, life at the UI is basically when you go to the beautiful campus each day and you have your morning coffee before you start working with the view of the Duomo, and it encourages you and it really inspires you to do the work because you're in such a beautiful setting. And you can also see that the history of the place even encourages you even more, because then there has been a monastery in one of the main buildings, there has been a school, and science has been with this place for a while now. And then for me also, one of the best points is that lunchtime is one of the very community strengthening activities, because everyone, mostly everyone, tends to have it at the canteen in the UI or at the canteen either in the main building, or if you are in the history law department, maybe in the other building, which is Villa Salviari. And then you basically, even if you have some of these down moments psychologically and you doubt yourself, then you can always find someone to talk to and basically find some encouragement, which is very nice. And I think it prevents you from feeling that you are alone doing a PhD. In other big universities, I think when you have a cohort of maybe 10 people per year, who every one of them does maybe completely different field of, like in my case, political science or social science, then it's a bit difficult and you might not find yourself surrounded by people, like-minded people. Whereas at the UI, where there are like 100, 120 researchers each year in combined, all departments combined, then you can always find someone who works in at least maybe not on your topic, but in the field that's close to your topic. And then you can also find support academic-wise. And I found it very, very helpful.
Thank you very much. Lucas, can you also shed your light on life as a PhD researcher and life as a human being at the EUI?
Yeah, I certainly can. First of all, thank you, Daria. I think I can't agree more with what you said. I would like to make a couple of points. So from the PhD researcher perspective, and Daria mentioned this already, this is a really unique place in the sense that you get that it's small and that professors have a lot of time for you. So if I talk to friends of mine who do PhDs in different universities, I find that I talk to my supervisors far more often than they do to theirs. And I think that's a great asset, so that people can and have time for you to talk about your research. The second thing is it's true. I mean, being a PhD student requires you to spend a lot of time at your desk or in the library, but it also matters a bit where your desk is and where your library is and what the view out of the window is. And that is really amazing from here. If you take a break and have a coffee on the balcony and see the Duomo in the background. And then the last thing, and that is somehow interacting between both life as a PhD researcher and life as a human being, as Verla called it, is the fact that the EUI PhD program works in cohorts means that at every point during your PhD, you have 20 to 30 people who are in the exact same situation as you are, who face the same deadlines, who are also new at the same time, who have the same issues, and you can talk to them and you will make friends with them. I'm 100% certain, because this is what happened for all of us. And this is, I think, a great asset, because, I mean, doing a PhD in general, not particular to the UI, also has often to do something with struggling, and you will have better phases, you will have harder phases where you have to meet a deadline and work really hard, or where you get stuck with your project. And especially then, it's great to have a couple of people around you who you who you're friends with and who do the exact same thing and who are happy to talk with you about this and who actually understand the situation you're in. And yeah, and this is, I think, also a great benefit of this cohort structure, that you always have people around. And obviously this also adds to your life as a human being, because afterwards you're going to go for pizza with them or for an aperitivo. And especially for this, the EUI community is also providing a lot of other opportunities to spend some time away from the library. We have a bar on campus where you can hang out in the evening and meet people also from other departments, which is very nice because they come from various backgrounds, and it's a very international crowd. So I mean, the fact that this grant system works on a national grant authority basis means that each year you also only get a few people per country, which means that in the end you have a very diverse community, which is very nice. And yeah, so I mean, all in all, I think the EUI is a pretty good place also because it provides you some opportunities and some options to stay away from the library for half a day, and that's also sometimes nice.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Lucas. Yes, Daria?
I just wanted to add, for like staying away from the library, I think it's very important that the EUI also provides a lot of extracurricular activities, and you can look on the website what clubs and student associations we have. And I personally have tried many of them, and if I had more time and could do more, I would maybe pick 5 or 6. But of course I didn't. I concentrated on the choir and for a couple of years in rowing and doing yoga or swimming. So you can really find something that is suitable for you and something that you like to do in your spare time. And also, I think if you don't find something that you like, you can join with a group of students and apply for funding from the EUI to subsidize some of the activities. So you can basically found a different sports club or theater club or something like that. I mean, you have to, of course, consult the 4B service for that. But I think it's totally wonderful because it provides you with something right away when you come to Florence, before you can maybe even get yourself involved in the activities that happen in Florence.
Okay, so I have to, we are getting to the end. It's amazing how fast an hour goes. But one thing that I would like to add is that we have gathered a number of experiences from researchers and alumni which are all published on the website. So if you want to hear other people's view on how they find the EUI, then you can look at the experiences on the website. So there are a number of questions which unfortunately we cannot answer anymore, but please be informed that you can really write to the admission officer. Everything is online available, so you can do that. I have still 3 minutes to go, so I have to look at my paper if I have not forgotten to say something. So if you would like to apply, go to the website of the EUI and you will see the online application now. So you can do that. And I remind you that the deadline is the 31st of January. Start in time to do it because a number of documents that have to be uploaded. Sometimes there is a double application necessary depending on your grant authority. You can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram. And particularly under hashtag #MyEUIExperience, where you can current researchers talk about their time at EUI. So I would like to say that this hangout will be available on jobs.ac.uk website if you want to look again, and on their YouTube channel, but we will also have a link on our website. And now we are getting really to the end. So I would like to thank all of you for having participated in the webinar, for your interest in the PhD program. And I would like to thank the panelists for providing answers and for their time and for participating in this webinar. So I think this will be the end of the webinar, and thank you again. And I hope that we will get many applications from wherever you are to the EUI. Thank you very much.